and welcome to Chem 1C, Summer Session Edition. My name is Amanda Holton, and I'm going to be your professor. I will also be your lecturer. I know some of you have had classes where you had a different lecturer versus professor. In this case, I'm both. You are more than welcome to call me Amanda if that makes you comfortable. You're also welcome, of course, to call me Dr. Professor Holton. I do tend to like to keep a relatively casual vibe. So as long as you can still be respectful while calling me Amanda, that's 100% okay. Now, before we get started into class things, just a little bit about myself. I think that maybe sharing personal details once in a while when you're online is even more important than in person. So kind of keep that in mind when you're talking to each other too. Sometimes if you remember that you're talking to a person and not a computer, it can help. So I'm from a very small town called Rose City, Michigan. We have far less people in our town than what we even have in some dorm buildings on campus. I have a puppy that's 5 years old, so he's not really a puppy, but he is always my puppy, named Pixel. He may make a show at office hours once in a while. And I have a little baby who's about 6 months old, so you may hear her in the background here or there. When I'm not taking care of all of that and when I'm not quarantined, I like doing jiu-jitsu. I like indoor rock climbing, more like indoor bouldering, but similar. Hiking, I pretend to like to do yoga, but mostly it's a health thing. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the course. I'm not going to do a full walkthrough of the website because that would get tedious, and you can click on links, but I wanted to bring your attention to a few things. So when you come in, you'll be at kind of this homepage. You can click on links here. This is mostly my this is the most important stuff page, but if you go over to modules, you'll also be able to see everything here. And this is a little more all-inclusive. So I might start from here if I were you. You can come into the syllabus to see everything that's going to be in the syllabus. Really important here is a calendar. That's where I put things, pretty much anything that you need a time for. So I have due dates up there. I have exam days up there. I have quiz days up there. I will eventually have discussion up there. I'll have any tutor's office hours up there. Everything goes on the calendar. You can sync this to your own Google Calendar, and I'd highly recommend it. And then your standard admin requirements. And then your grade information. And this was something that I wanted to spend a little bit of time on, because this is a little different than what I've ever done with it before. So, first things that are kind of normal. We have your midterm, just 30%. In the summer, we typically only do one midterm. It's just so fast-paced that there's not really time for more. It's generally a 2-hour midterm, designed to be a 2-hour midterm. And the dates for that are on the course calendar. Now, we'll have a final exam. I always add in a little bit of nuclear chem, because nuclear chem is considered an optional thing for us. But for people going into biology, it's pretty important, actually. And it's not important for you to understand nuclear chemistry at like a graduate level or anything of that sort. But there is definitely nuclear medicine, and it comes up in dentistry, it comes up in doctoring, it comes up in any more actually pharmacy as well, because they're a lot of times the one mixing the dyes and things of that sort. So I don't think it's a thing that we should skip, because I don't think you're going to get it in a lot of other places. But I also want to give you something for learning it in terms of your grade. And so I just make it an extra credit portion. Now, we're going to do something a little different than what we normally do in chem classes. And that's I'm going to let you bring a page of handwritten notes. So this is a 9x11 page, written front and back. You cannot type, but you can handwrite. You can write as small as you want to write. We are still going to be using Respondus. So most of you have probably used that already. So you're going to be showing that to the camera. Now, your homework will be made up of video assignments, which you can read about on the syllabus more too, in your SAPM. You'll notice that this is a little heavier than what we typically do in STEM classes. That too is because it's online and during relatively stressful times. I know that quarantines are slowly being lifted, but by the time you see this, they might be back on again. Not to mention, of course, all the protests that are going on and the really deep impact that's having on a lot of people in our community. So I want to make the homework worth a little bit more than one exam. Now, going along with that, and I put this as COVID-19 protest / whatever else, because let's face it, every month brings new crazy challenges to this year, and we don't know what those are going to be. And I don't necessarily think the world is suddenly going to be healed this month. So I'm going to do something a little different in addition as well. So every Monday, you're going to have a quiz. Now, before you say, wait, so you're going to deal with stress by giving us more homework. Yes, but you don't actually have to do it. However, I would suggest doing it. And my reason for that is that those quizzes are actually going to be able to replace an exam if you want. So you're going to have 5 quizzes every Monday. So you won't have one Monday of week 1 because there's nothing for me to test you on. But Monday of week 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 / final exam. And you'll be able to do the quiz anytime during the day on that Monday. And then I'm going to take your highest 3 quiz scores. So really you only have to do 3 if you're pretty sure you can do well on them. I'm going to take your highest 3. And if those are better than either your midterm or your final, I'm going to replace your midterm or your final. Now, when you start adding in all these different ways to do grades, sometimes it can be a little overwhelming. So I added something else in for you too. So if you click here, you'll be taken to this page, Help Understanding Grades in a Grade Calculator. So first off, I give you some examples of some different students, some life circumstances that might lead them to do a certain way. Of course, I made math easy for myself by having good be 100%, but that was, you'll kind of see the point when you read through it. And then additionally, so for less perfect examples, you'll know how you can kind of calculate your own grade. I made a spreadsheet, so you can click into this. I put the hypothetical students in so that you can kind of see how that they would do. And then I left a line here for you to put your grades in. So notice I say fill in, fill in, fill in, do not change. And that's because these have formulas. So you'll just fill in the blue squares. These are formulas, which will then go ahead and calculate your grade. Now, this is assuming this is set up to handle it as if you have all of your grades in. So if you're doing this before the final exam, so for instance, you might want to fill in all your other ones and then basically fill in random numbers into your final exam to see what you would need to get in order to get a certain grade or things of that sort. And then I set up your video score and your sapling score separately. And that's just because you're going to find them in different places. So you can find this in Canvas. You'll be able to find that right directly in Sapling. So hopefully that will help. You'll note if we go back to the syllabus page, what I say about curves, that basically I'm going to try for a straight scale. If I need to curve, I'll curve. I would rather not curve because that kind of fosters this community that is based on, well, as long as I do better than the person next to me, I'll get a good grade. And I don't like that. So I am going to try to grade on a straight scale. If I have to scale it up, I'll do that. I generally try not to do necessarily just a curve. I'll do like extra credit or things like that that can help you improve your grades and various other things like that. But at the end of the day, sometimes I have to curve, and if I do, I will. Then the last portion of this is right here. Additionally, if you get a 90% on your sapling and video assignments, so in other words, basically all the homework, you'll be guaranteed a C- in the class. And that is really not standard for a chem class. And I'm doing that for a few reasons. One, again, I don't think any of these stresses are going to go away. I'm just holding my breath that there's not new ones that happen during summer session, and we're just kind of dealing with the fallout of the old ones. However, I know that your guys' class handled that you had to go through 1A in the middle of moving. You had to go through 1B in the middle of a lot of social unrest in the areas that we tend to live in. And that's a lot going on. And C is the last in a series. And you need the things you learned in 1A and 1B. And that stress that happened in 1A and 1B, even if the world becomes a wonderful, magical, perfect place tomorrow, that's still going to affect you to some extent. And so this is a build-in to deal with that. This is to try to help deal with that. With that being said, you are also going to need the material you learn here in organic. Most of you guys are taking organic, and it's going to be really important that you know this stuff moving forward. So please make sure that you take this seriously, that you spend the time and energy on the homework learning it. This is not meant so that you can just treat the homework as a checkbox, get your C- and move on. It's really you really need to know the material. So treat your homework super seriously, spend a lot of time and energy on it, and then that will, one, allow you to know that you won't fail the class, but also will probably mean that you'll end up with a better grade than this anyways, and this won't even be necessary. That's the hope. All right, I think you can pretty much read through the rest of this. One other big kind of important thing is this class was actually designed to be online. It wasn't put online just because of the COVID-19 situation. So because of that, we don't have any quote-unquote course time like the other classes do to run our exams. So I've picked a class time that I think is going to work. It's on the calendar. Check that out. And if you can't do it, please come fill out this form. So the reason why I want you to fill out a form instead of emailing me is my inbox gets a lot of emails, and I don't want anything to get lost. So what this form allows you to do is put it all in one place for me. And so when the time comes that I need to email you about it, I can just go to that one place and make sure that nobody is forgotten about or lost on the 15th page of my inbox. So please do that as soon as possible. All right. You can read through the rest of this. This last part I would like to talk about a little bit, academic dishonesty policy. Please take this seriously. So I take academic dishonesty very, very seriously. And that includes things that now you can kind of try on a online exam that you wouldn't have ever necessarily tried in an in-person exam. Things that include academic dishonesty here that you may not think of, and that is very, very important, is not showing your whole room. So during the respondus check, it asks you to show your whole room. You need to show your whole area. You need to do a full pan. If you do not do that, I can take away points up to 100% of the exam for academic dishonesty. Now, remember, you get a full page front and back of notes. There's really no reason that you wouldn't show us the whole room so that we can see everything. Okay, that's really important. Now, let's go back up here to your modules. All right, so I have a little enrollment checklist here. This is just a bunch of text. There's no links or anything. Just these are the things you need to do right away. So take this practice quiz and Respondus to check your equipment. Please do this regularly. Respondus has updates, and sometimes those updates mess things up. And sometimes computers break. Sometimes webcams used to work, and now they don't. So please do this right away so that we can fix any issues as soon as possible. And then maybe once a week, do it again. And then the night before the exam, do it again. And then that makes sure that we can deal with any issues before the day of the exam. And that just makes everything a lot less stressful for you and for me and for everybody else. Please make sure you get a hand mirror for the exam. This is so that we can see around the edge of your computer. If you don't know why we do that, please just, go with the flow and please do it for us. It's important. All right. And then at this point, you'll be into our week's material. Now, I understand that this is a lot every week. Please remember that this is a double-paced course, which means in 1 week of class time, you are going to be doing 2 weeks worth of work. And that is a lot. And I know that that is a lot. Unfortunately, just because it's summer doesn't mean that we can cut the material. You still have to learn it all. We still have to hit a syllabus. We still have to go through the same material. So bear with me, work hard. Remember that, yes, it is a lot of time and a lot of work. It's basically if you do all the hours, it's a full-time job for each class you take, which, yes, means that if you are taking 2 classes and you have a full-time job, which effectively means you have 3 full-time jobs. So please use your time wisely. Please study lots. Please study whenever you can. Something that a lot of people don't really give enough credit is how much you can get done in 20 devoted minutes. So what I mean by that is no Instagram, no Facebook, no TikTok, no anything. Just sit down for 20 minutes and study really hard. That power study 20 minutes can get a lot done, and it breaks up the studying. So the less length of time and the more frequently you study, the more you tend to actually retain. So that's something that can help you kind of cut down on some of the time needed You don't really want to sit down and spend 12 hours studying for the class all in one day. You want it to be kind of spaced out. You don't want to spend more than an hour sitting staring at a computer. You need to get up and do some jumping jacks, run around the block, run up the stairs, throw your kid sibling around, something. Do something to get up and away from the computer, or you'll zone out and then it doesn't matter anymore. So little things like that can make a really huge difference when you're trying to study this enormous amount of material all at once. But that being said, I think 1C is a lot of fun. It is my absolute favorite of the 3 classes. I actually don't get to teach it in person anymore, and it makes me really sad because it is my favorite material to lecture on. It's the part where chemistry finally feels like chemistry. We're doing reactions and things are happening with reactions and molecules are combining and changing and doing other things, and it starts to get into things that feel like more like real chemistry as opposed to physics. Or, okay, so we're just putting molecules together. I think it's a lot of fun. And then the problem solving becomes really cool too. Where once you kind of get the rules down, it becomes like think of it as playing a game. You're still playing the same game, you just have slightly new rules for the next advanced level. And so it is a lot of fun. It's tricky and it's difficult at times, but a lot of fun. So that's kind of the payback for it being a lot of work all at once and being a little hard at times, is that along with that is a lot more interesting material in my own personal opinion. I would joke about it being my unbiased opinion, but I teach all 3. So theoretically I should have the same attachment to all 3. And yet this one is far and away my favorite. So skim through, look through stuff, work on it, and then message me as needed. There's one more thing I want to talk about that's important. So I put in 2 forms here. And this was done for a couple of reasons. One, this is a new homework program, which means that I have not gone through and done every single question. I have glanced at them and said, yeah, that looks like a perfectly okay question. That being said, sometimes when you do something like that, or sometimes when you're an expert on a subject and you teach it and then you try to do the problem, it's not the same as when you're a student. And so I don't want you to be sitting at home just painstaking over this one question, have you all be doing that, and then no one tell me about it. This is the sort of thing that in person I get from office hours. I'm helping people do their homework. We hit a question that's just dumb. And I pull it and I take it out. And that's okay. But with not being in person, I'm not going to get that same interaction from people. And so I really want to make sure you have a place to do that. And so that's what it's for. It is not for if you think a question is wrong. If you think there's something wrong with a question, send that to Sapling. I can't fix the Sapling questions. They need to do that. But this is like straight up, okay, there's not something wrong with the question, but I think this question is stupid, and I want you to know why I think it's stupid. That's what this form is for, is to tell me that. And then this one. This is a random blanket anonymous feedback form. You can go in here, or you can come in here. The complaint about the question one, I do actually collect email addresses on because I want to be able to see this. But on this one, there's no email address collection. In fact, I give you a place to share your email purposely so that if you want, you can share a kind of anonymous email. I know I have like 3 or 4 emails that I use for different things, including ones that my names are attached to. So if you want feedback or you want to have a conversation, but you don't want me to know who you are, that's a way for you to do that. It's very plain. It's just says, what do you want to say? And then me asking, hey, you remember that I'm a human being too, right? Because sometimes the internet can be really disconnecting and you forget that you're talking to a person. So I want you to remember that you're talking to a person. So I reminded you by showing you a picture of me and my dog. So keep that in mind when you're talking to each other too. We all need a little bit of kindness and humanity even when we're far apart and looking at a screen. You're not talking to a computer, you're talking to a person. All right. And I think that's all of the intro that I really need to do. Now it's just you guys need to go through and play and ask questions if you have it. That's what the discussion board is for. I will generally direct you to the discussion board rather than email. Email me, of course, if you have personal things that you need to talk about that do not belong on discussion boards, right? But for things, if you think, hey, I have a question and this would probably be useful for somebody else too, then that should go in the discussion boards because it helps everybody. And you should check here first too, because a lot of times somebody's already asked it. Remember, with 300 people in the class, if you have a question, odds are somebody else does too. And odds are even that somebody had it before you. So you don't have to wait for an answer at all. You can go right there. It's divided up into topics. So you have your administrative material, and then each week you have topics. So for any sort of admin stuff, put it here. and then we can kind of go through that. For any like chemistry topics that you have, I would put it in the week topic. That way it just makes it a little bit easier to kind of make sure we understand what we're all talking about, sort of thing. And then I also have a study session set up. So this is just for you guys to use to talk to each other. You'll know I haven't actually changed this since the COVID-19 situation, since you can't really go to a room, but you can go to Zoom. So you guys have your Zoom accounts. If you ever need a Zoom account set up for longer than 40 minutes, I can usually do that for you too. As long as I don't need my Zoom account that particular hour, I can set it up for you guys to use and just make one of you the host and you can do it. So use this to talk to each other, to plan out study time. Again, we're all pretty isolated at this point in time, even with the quarantine ending. Just having our family it can be a little tough. So if you guys can get together and do some Zoom sessions, I think that will help you maybe feel a little more like you're at UCI and a little more like you have that community that we're used to having at UCI. All right, I know I've said this like 3 times already, but with that, I think we're done. So go ahead, get started, and let me know if you have questions. Bye.